regulation. It is caught by Dyson. Can he get in? No, he cannot.
Yeah, I said it, we are. This is Rock Nation. Pledge your allegiance.
Welcome to the Goal Line Stand here on the Shady Sports Network. I'm Michael Washington, as always, and Justin Arth, our resident quarterback, once again, two-man team to start off the show. It's been like that the last few weeks, but, you know,
We'll
I'm
end
sure
up
somebody
at
will
4,
pop.
5 minutes in.
I was going to say, I'm sure somebody will pop in here eventually at some point in time. We have 2 episodes left, Justin. We Conference Championship
2.
week, and then we got the Super Bowl week. We'll run over that real quick. That's it. Well, we'll have a draft special. You'll be in season, so I don't know if you'll be there for it. Hopefully, we can get it set up so you can be. But we'll have a draft special probably after the NFL draft to kind of discuss and break down some things. We'll probably skip free agency and combine that into the draft special because it will probably all.
Well, I've already got my whole Minnesota Vikings. Well, I've already got my whole Minnesota Vikings. What they need to do, who they need to sign, how you get. How you get back to a Super Bowl there. So I already got that one. That's already.
You guys haven't been back to it. You guys haven't been to a Super Bowl since what? Super Bowl II?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah,
it's been a while.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Chris, he's actually here on time for once in his life. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Just on the ground.
Yeah. What is this?
Usual.
Are you in your kitchen? Is that what's happening right now?
No. No, I have multiple kitchens in my house. This is not one.
We'll see. Yeah, because he's the GM of like every team. He's getting millions and millions. Like he's got like 20 kitchens in his house. Like
one day though, for sure. One day.
What? One day. I believe you. Hey, if anybody can do it, Chris, it could be you.
I appreciate
that. That is for sure. Straight up. You're very subdued tonight. What's going on here? You're very stoic? Is that the word I'm looking for?
Yeah, Justin.
Usually you come with personality and you're just...
No. I've been so, no, I feel fine. I just, it's cold outside, in Massachusetts, so it kind of messes with your mood. Not messing with your mood, kind of messing with your, energy levels.
Fam, I know all about that, man. It's ice cold up this way, too. Maine is ice right now. Like, all ice.
It sucks.
Yeah.
I'm just not going to say anything. It's like 40 degrees here. So,
Hey, 40 degrees for you is like 15 for us up here, isn't it? That's usually how that goes, right?
My dad's a Minnesota kid. I got northern stuff in my veins. Yeah, this ain't cold.
Okay. We'll roll with it. We'll roll with that. All right, let's start with the AFC Championship game, guys. I think Justin, you were the only one who picked Kansas City last week. If I remember correctly, I think that you were the only one out of everybody that was on the panel. Oh, real quick before we...
And I think I predicted pretty much how this game would go too.
You did, and I think you were very close on the score as well. Real quick before we jump into it, I just want to give a shout out to Curtis, who will not be joining us tonight. He did lose his 98-year-old grandmother. So, thoughts and positive energy and stuff to his and his family, condolences as well. Just wanted to throw that out there. He's doing all right, but he wanted to make sure that, he let us know that he would not be able to be here tonight. So just wanted to make sure I gave him a shout out. Yeah, no doubt. Just wanted to give that shout out right quick and whatnot. Justin, so let's talk about this AFC Championship game because I don't know how you felt about the game, but I still felt like that this was a game in a situation where Baltimore kind of gave this game away more than it was really Kansas City controlling and winning this game. I don't know if that might be a little bit too much of a hot take-esque type, situation, but that's kind of how the game felt to me.
No, I agree with you. This game was more of a game that Baltimore lost. They blew it. Now, obviously, when you say they blew it, you automatically think they are winning by 2 or 3 scores. They blow the lead, whatever. No, there was just an inability to run the football, or not even inability. They ran the football well when they ran the football. They did not want to run the football. I thought they came into this game with a bad game plan and a bad way of attacking Kansas City, and you played into what Kansas City's strengths were. Excuse me. And then even with Lamar, Lamar had a tendency to not want to run in this game, and he stayed in the pocket, and he sat there for 8 seconds at times. And then you look at Todd Monken and some of the we're just going to keep taking shots deeper and deeper down the field and not having anything develop in the shorter areas, not being able to get the ball quickly out of Lamar's hands. I mean, I even go back and see some of Lamar's things pop up like on TikTok of a lot of his pro day highlights, and everyone's saying, oh, he's the best slant thrower ever in the history of college football whenever he was coming in. And I'm like, okay, well, yeah, Lamar's not that guy anymore, but quick game stuff. Where's the quick game at? Where's the running game? Where's the quick game? Where's the screen game to get easy, nice completions? Now, obviously, I get if you push 3 or 4 guys deep down the field, then you would expect there to be room for Lamar to run, but Lamar has to go run and make a play to do that. And he was reluctant to do that. So I think there were missed opportunities. I think there were just bad game plan. I mean, I even have it written down here. The Ravens dropped back 82% of the time, which is the highest percentage of dropbacks under the Lamar Jackson era. And they had 16 total carries. And that's including Lamar's carries.
Mm-hmm.
6 running back carries for 23 yards.
Yep.
Obviously, I'll talk about the greatness of Patrick Mahomes later, and I know we'll talk about that probably too.
You know what's coming up.
Yeah, but no, I mean this Ravens team blew it. And Lamar Jackson looked tight. He looked tense. This was not the Ravens team we're accustomed of seeing.
I think the biggest thing that shocked me the most about this game, and again, I really want to emphasize that I don't necessarily think that this was as much Kansas City dominating as much as it was Baltimore having a terrible game plan and sticking with it for some reason. I don't know if that was a Todd Monken call. I don't know if that was a John Harbaugh call. I don't know who made that call, but whoever made that call, it has to fall back on John Harbaugh, in my opinion, just because he's the head coach. But you were the number 1 rushing team in the NFL this year. Mm-hmm. And that still included a step back from previous years under Greg Roman, right? Yep. Buffalo, the week before, almost beat Kansas City because of their run game.
Yeah.
And Buffalo does not run the ball nearly as well. You ran the ball 16 total times against a team that literally could not stop the run the week before against Buffalo.
Yep.
And you scored 10 points because you decided to rest on Lamar Jackson's arm. Now, no offense to Lamar Jackson. His arm has gotten much better over the last few years. He's definitely developed as a passer. But you're never going to win games not leaning into Lamar Jackson's strengths. Plain and simple. It doesn't matter who you're playing. And what makes it worse is you had Patrick Mahomes on the other side of the field and you were doing this.
Yeah.
That literally has got to be one of the worst game plans I've ever seen, almost at any level that I've watched, especially in a championship game.
Yeah.
Because there is just no way that I would ever take the ball out of my strength on offense to do something different. Now, I am very much a, you got here, stick with what you know type of person. Mm-hmm. Like, we'll talk about Detroit, San Francisco. Detroit stuck with what they know, and it cost them, right? They didn't change up who they were.
To an extent.
They didn't change up who they were, and I'll get into that when we talk about that game.
They did change a couple things, though, because I think this game with Baltimore is very similar to Detroit, too.
Baltimore completely changed everything that they did.
That is true.
Like, from the game plan all the way from the start to the end, and it did not work. And it did not work because they did not stick with who they are.
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes, what can you say about him? Andy Reid, what can you say about him? I mean, it's a well-deserved win. I don't want to take anything away from Kansas City. It's definitely a well-deserved win. But, I mean, it's kind of easy when your opponent kind of just plays directly into your strengths. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, but you can even talk about the other missed opportunities that Baltimore's still in this game. Like, It was 17-10 game at the end of it. Like you have the unsportsmanlike conduct penalties on Patrick Queen and obviously Zay Flowers. Like those are unexcusable, and they haven't been like that type of player all season. So why do you do it now in this kind of game? And then the fumble. I mean, honestly, I'll say that's a great play by the defensive back to poke the ball out there. Yep. But still, you have that goes against you and turns into the touchback. Like missed opportunities in this game. But again, it all starts with the play calling and not running the football, like the game plan. Like that's where the game was lost right there.
Yeah, and the Zay Flowers situation, that's a very teachable moment. Rookie wide receiver, hyped up in the AFC Championship game, made a huge play. Then he was trying too hard to make a play, probably to make up for the play that happened, 2 plays before.
If you're going to taunt away from the guy, just taunt towards the field. If you turn that way, it's fine.
Right. Well, it was also the ball spin too. Like you can't throw the ball and spin the ball at a person when it's sitting there. So, it's a teachable moment for Zay. He'll get better. The thing that I take from this game though is the same thing that Dan Campbell told the Lions on the loss on the other end. And it was, you may never get back to this point. Like we may never get back here. We'll fight like hell to get there, but we may never get back to it. And for me, with Baltimore in that situation, like that's a teachable moment for Zay Flowers, but is he ever going to get another chance in an AFC Championship game to redeem himself in a Baltimore Ravens uniform? Yeah, that's the big question. So, we'll get to Kansas City in a moment because we know that they're going to the Super Bowl. What now for Baltimore? What should Baltimore do moving forward here? Because obviously Lamar's contract, they paid him.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like they drafted a pretty solid wide receiver in Zay Flowers, but the rest of the wide receivers are basically who's who.
Yep.
They got 2 pretty good tight ends. J.K. Dobbins can't stay healthy, so we don't know about the running back position, but they still run the hell out of the ball. So what does this Baltimore Ravens team need to do to get over this hump or get back to that spot next year?
I mean, again, I think it all starts with Lamar. You have to continue to see more development as a passer to continue to open up the play calling and the style of play calling in this offense. Now, however you look at what's now coming back for Baltimore, this in a way plays to the old Lamar strengths of he only throws to tight ends. He never throws to outside receivers. And you can kind of play more the middle of the field. So you may start to see an offense that goes back to obviously you're running the football and Lamar will dink it and dunk it with Andrews and Likely all over the field. And then you have that big play guy in Zay Flowers to try to make a play. And then someone like Odell Beckham who seems to like this culture that they have here. There's a potential that you maybe look to bring him back on a cheaper rate because I haven't looked at what their salary cap and who's up for contracts. I haven't looked at necessarily all that with Baltimore. But, I mean, there's guys like Nelson Aguilar, guys like Odell Beckham Jr. that you could probably bring back for maybe not necessarily a big deal, but not necessarily the cheapest deal in the world either. Like just a normal veteran wide receiver, maybe above veteran wide receiver type pay. And this is a team that I think with the defense as young as it is, you can in a way run this back. But again, it's like what Dan Campbell said with the Lions, like, are they going to get back to this point? And I hate saying it about someone like in Lamar Jackson who played as well as he did consistently all season. But when the lights were the brightest and the pressure was the most, he went back to the playoff Lamar that everyone was saying he was. So does this narrative, kind of like the Dak Prescott narrative, you are who you are, is that going to continue to be the case? And unfortunately, we're going to have another year of talking about Lamar specifically of you are who you are come playoff time. You're the greatest regular season quarterback out there. Come playoffs, you're this.
Yeah, and I mean, you hit the nail on the head there. It really is going to boil down to, like, is Lamar going to be able to develop to be able to get over that hump to the point where it can be? Now, Baltimore will have pick 30.
Yep.
And looking at the board that I'm looking at as far as the draft board is concerned, I feel like there's going to be several wide receivers that are going to probably go between 25 and 32.
Mm-hmm.
Baltimore, there's no doubt a wide receiver may be a position that they look at. But let's take a look at the receivers that they have drafted. Rashard Bateman, who has not quite panned out yet. Now, it doesn't mean that he won't. It's just been very slow developing, slower than I think most people wanted to, which forced them to take Zay Flowers this year, or last year, I should say.
Yep.
So, well, so far they look like they've hit on.
Yeah.
So far they look like they hit on. And Bateman made some big plays when it mattered, but, you know, what was it about this Ozzie Newsome team? Because when Ozzie Newsome was there, it felt like he was hitting on every friggin' draft pick. That felt like, most likely. But these receivers, is it a Lamar issue? Is it a receiver issue? Is it a coaching dynamic? Like, they're going to have to really take a look at themselves in the mirror at this point, because if they spend another first on a wide receiver and fail again, there's going to be a lot of questions now about the GM that took over. Eric DaCosta, I believe, is still the GM there. And what is John Harbaugh's role in this as a coach? Like, fantastic coach, winning coach, but you're going to have to start taking a hard look at this, because we know about the NFL, it's results.
Yes.
And even though the regular season results are good, there's nothing to indicate that Baltimore should have lost this game to Kansas City at all.
Yeah. But again, it all comes back to Lamar Jackson, because obviously I'm the resident quarterback of the group. Our resident wide receiver of the group, who I will be throwing touchdowns to, is not on today. So AC, if you're in the comments, definitely go leave a comment. But so I'll defer all the wide receiver talk to him. But I will say, like, this starts and ends with the quarterback. Like, Lamar Jackson has to continue to develop. I've seen a lot of growth from him this year. But again, you need to take the next step. You need to now take this next step of being an overall above average passer to now becoming an elite passer that makes the guys, whoever you have there, better. And so you need to be able to anticipate, throw guys open, throw into windows when the windows aren't open, but they become open when the ball gets there. Like, that's where Lamar needs to start taking this next step forward. And at that point, it doesn't matter whatever wide receivers you have there. If you have Zay Flowers, if you have like a Romeo Odunze or any of these guys in the draft, like, you can make those guys better. If you have Odell Beckham or Rashad Bateman, whoever you have there, you can make those guys better. You've seen quarterbacks do it time and time again. Patrick Mahomes is continuing to trust guys who have let him down, and you're seeing what's happening now. So quarterbacks that can do that, Tom Brady, elevate the level of play around them. That is what Lamar now needs to take the next step and do. If he can't, then this might still be a playoff regular because of the young core that they have, especially defensively. But it's going to be one and done, or maybe you win a playoff and Lamar's still sitting here saying woulda, coulda, shoulda at the end of everything.
Shout out to Facebook user. He said Lamar always looks superb until it matters most. It's funny because you said the word elevates in there. And I remember a specific conversation we had about Lamar a couple shows ago, several shows ago now.
Yep.
And I posed the question, does Lamar Jackson actually elevate anybody around him? And I think that this conversation is the most exposed and the most telling coming out of this AFC Championship game against Kansas City. And to me, it's a resounding no, he doesn't. At this point in time.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think and this is where the big conversation kind of throws in the whole, like, oh, you hate Lamar Jackson, like the haters on both sides. Because I think Lamar Jackson can elevate an offense, but he cannot elevate receivers.
Yeah, and I love Lamar. Don't get me wrong. It's not a shot at Lamar per se.
Exactly.
It's just when you are watching this team, he is so valuable to that offense, but he's not elevating individual players within that offense. Yes. So is it and to be honest, to give Lamar a little bit of credit, it could also still be that Baltimore's asking too much of him. Like that's a possibility too. Like, we see it with Josh Allen in Buffalo. Like, are they asking him to do too much? It's the same thing with Baltimore and Lamar. Are they asking him to do too much? And is he not handling the pressure to be able to elevate the players around him?
Yeah.
While still elevating the offense as a whole.
Yeah.
So,
but because of what he brings athletically, you have to use that, which obviously then they didn't in this game. So, I mean, I don't know. I look at the scheme, and although I love Todd Monken, I haven't seen a Ravens offense in the last 5-6 years that shows me that, and maybe this is the Lamar issue, but I haven't seen an offensive scheme, let alone even then Lamar being able to elevate a receiver to where you see an offensive style like a Green Bay or like a San Francisco or an LA Rams, like a lot of these kind of new spread air raid type coaches that are getting into the NFL and running these systems. I'm not seeing the quote unquote easy throws, the throws that everybody thinks like Brock Purdy just makes because it's given to him. Like I'm not seeing that out of Lamar Jackson. I'm not seeing guys run a lot of the same concepts in Baltimore. It just kind of seems, especially in this game, everybody run 90 yards downfield and give Lamar space to go take off and run or make something happen in the second play in the scramble drill, which has worked in the regular season, but doesn't work when Kansas City does what they do and they're able to get a pass rush to Lamar, especially when he stays in the pocket. And then you see them play different versions of two high safety looks in zone, and they played their zones very well.
Yeah, that triple coverage interception was miserable.
Oh yeah, and there's a guy wide open on a dig, and I didn't screenshot it to talk about it, but he's wide open on a dig about 18 yards downfield instead of throwing it in the end zone 36 yards down.
Happened twice on that drive though. Mm-hmm. Happened twice on the drive. It happened 2 plays beforehand. It was Aguilar was open on a little. I don't know if it was a dig route or an out route, but it was heading towards the sideline. He had it. I saw it clear as day, but again, on the field, it's a different story. You know, as a player, sometimes you just don't see it. You miss it.
Hey, you get tunnel vision. Yeah, I would like to say I never get tunnel vision, but it happens to the best of us.
Yeah, for sure. Conversely, on the NFC side, we'll talk about Detroit. We'll get to San Francisco a little bit because that is the Super Bowl, so we'll get to the preview there. Detroit had this game, came out, made a statement, obviously 24-7 at halftime. Never felt like San Francisco was out of it because you can't really count them out. I mean, San Francisco was the best team all year in the NFC. You made a comment.
They won that one game being down. So
right, yeah. Well, hey, I mean, maybe that was all was needed to turn it around. We saw it. Yeah. You know, it happens. You made an interesting comment about Detroit getting away from what they know. I'm curious as to where you're referring, because there is one part of their game that is glaring to me that they got away from, and I'm just curious if we're on the same page with this. So, what was it for you?
It's the thing that the Ravens didn't do all game. Like once this game started, like the third, like in reality, the third quarter was the third quarter of hell for Detroit.
Yes.
But in that third quarter, they couldn't sustain drives because they stopped running the football.
Yeah, that was one of the things I noticed there in the third quarter for sure.
So I know the whole conversation, and obviously I'll talk about it here in a second. The Dan Campbell identity, the go for it on fourth down. Everybody's saying, "Oh, we'll just kick the field goal here, do this, do that." There's 2 of those decisions that I don't necessarily agree with, but the rest of the fourth down calls, even the ones that mostly didn't work, I'm still for that. I'm cool with the live and die by the sword kind of thing. Like I am 100% for Dan Campbell going for it most of those times. The only 2 times that I look at that and say maybe Dan Campbell should have kicked or done something different was obviously the decision to go for it on fourth down instead of kicking the field goal to tie it at 27. You take the tie there, trust the defense. I still think that is an aggressive mindset because you take the tie and you trust the defense. So you're putting faith in your defense there. But then again, that one's the lesser of the 2 that I disagree with because, again, Dan Campbell has proven over and over and over again he's going to trust this offensive unit. So what is that saying to your offense when you pull them off the field for the first time ever when you have an 80% percentage of getting these fourth downs? I think what the stats said, throughout the regular season. But the one that I think a lot of people aren't really saying, and I've heard Rex Ryan say it, is the decision to, after getting that either first and goal with 1:17 left or even getting to the third down with 1:10 left, not just kicking the field goal there with all 3 of your timeouts there and then playing for the onside kick and having time to at least get a stop with 3 timeouts and then try to go score and tie it that way. They went for the touchdown. They ran the extra play. That third down run I thought was bad. You should probably trust Badgley there or Bagley to kick one up, get the 3 there. Now, obviously, they got the touchdown. But I don't know. I like the move of giving the defense a chance to get you the ball back with timeouts so that your offense can go down and have the more time at the end. But that's to each their own. But I still think there were plenty of missed opportunities in this game, and I went down here and I can count 1, 2, 3 because 2 Josh Reynolds drops turned into
the Josh Reynolds drops, man, were brutal.
Yeah, so
both of them were for first downs. 1 on 4.
Yeah, 6 if you count the 2 Reynolds drops as individuals. I have 6 missed opportunities that Detroit could still have put this game away at different points in this game. So
yeah, and I'm going to echo this. There, the Facebook user. Sorry, you don't have a name here. You're not logged in, so or at least with this. So, the Lions were 15 of 20 for 75% and converting 4th and 3rds, 4th and 3 or fewer in the regular season, plus 2 and 2 in the postseason.
Yep.
Michael Badgley is 9 of 20, which is 45% in his career from 48 yards plus. Now, this is essentially the Detroit Lions' identity. Now, I'm going to talk about the Dan Campbell decisions to go for it on 4th down specifically at this point in time. Because there was one where you were up 14.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and you were well within the 48-yard range. It was probably going to be like a 42-yard kick or something like that with Badgley. I'm okay with you going for it there. Now, I as a former volunteer, coach, whatever. I look at the game from a coaching standpoint, whatever you want to look at it, right? I personally believe you take the points. Don't leave points on the field. But the Detroit Lions lived by this sword all year. This is their identity. This would be like asking the Golden State Warriors to not shoot 3-pointers or Steph Curry to not shoot a 3 in a clutch moment, right? So Facebook user Moose Gibson, thank you, man. Shout out to you, Moose.
Shout out, Moose. Great graphics if you need graphics, just saying.
Yeah, great graphics guy, Moose is for sure. I'm okay with that. The second one, I'm okay with too, because that field goal would have been longer. And again, it's the live by the sword, die by the sword situation. You don't want to, change up what you're doing. I'm very keen to remember Marty Schottenheimer. For a week leading up at 14-2 with LaDainian Tomlinson and Phillip Rivers, he gets destroyed all week about Marty Ball not being successful. LaDainian Tomlinson has an MVP year, and he touches the ball once in the last 7 plays of that game. They go to lose to New England. Don't change up who you are. Keep doing what you're doing. But what I will say is those 2 specific 4th downs that were stopped. Now, Josh Reynolds dropped one of them.
Yep.
Right, if I remember correctly.
That's one you got to have. Yeah, I mean, it's not the prettiest ball thrown by golf ever, but you got to have that.
Now, it wasn't the prettiest ball thrown, but to me, I thought it was the perfect placement because there was a defender coming over the top of Reynolds as Reynolds was falling to the ground, but it hit you in the hands. As a wide receiver, you need to make that catch, plain and simple. So to me, I don't put that on Goff. I put that on Reynolds. I think it was a great play call.
Yeah, that's a Reynolds drop.
The second 4th down, I hated the play call. San Francisco masked, their defense really well in that situation, but I hated the play call. I didn't think it was a good play call at all. It was like 4th and less than 2. Run a little pitch to Jahmyr Gibbs. His speed alone is going to get you to get him a chance for a first down, or at least it would have given you a better chance at that point in time. You have one of the best offensive lines in football. You lean on them. Utilize them.
You were missing your 2 guards though, so.
Yeah, but so that's why you go to the edge.
Yeah,
Gibbs was killing on the edge.
Successful, which I guess I'll toot my own horn again by saying, where was San Francisco struggling in the run game? It's getting the ball outside the tackles to the perimeter, and then obviously the cutback lanes is where they really kind of hammered it home after they got outside. But no, I mean, continue to do that.
And that's what I didn't like. It was even if you ran like a fake fullback dive and just pitched it out to Gibbs butt naked, I think he still gets there. You know what I mean? Like
Crucia's favorite play in Madden.
Yeah, I guess so. And to answer your question, Moose, I think it did come down to not necessarily trusting Badgley. I don't think that Badgley was a bad performer for Detroit this year. I just don't think it's one of those situations where you take a look at today's day and game. Like the game today is completely on a more analytical point. More coaches are going for it on fourth down than ever before. Field goals, settling for three is kind of falling by the wayside, and Detroit was like the leader of that pack. And I think Dan Campbell's going to continue doing that from that standpoint. So I think if I'm the Lions, though, here's the other thing I want to say real quick before we jump in a little further into this Detroit collapse in the second half. The Lions don't have anything to be ashamed of.
Oh,
they may have lost this game, but they weren't supposed to be there to begin with, right? Like we knew that Detroit was good. We knew that Detroit was going to probably make some noise, and everybody here on the panel, for the most part, was on board that Detroit was a Super Bowl contender, and they looked like a Super Bowl contender for 3 quarters, because I think they played really well in the fourth.
Yeah,
it was just that third quarter. That third quarter
from hell.
Yeah, that third quarter was a damn nightmare. And I think Dan Campbell said it right. He made sure to let them know, like I said earlier, like you may not get back to this point. And the honesty from a head coach like that, I think is only going to help the morale of that locker room.
Of course.
And if you're around the league and you see that and you see what's happening in Detroit, if you're a free agent, how would you not want to go to Detroit to play right now? So that's the other key to this, because before nobody wanted to go to Detroit. Nobody wanted to Detroit.
Wanting to.
So I don't know, man. I just feel like Detroit doesn't have really anything to hang their hat on. I know there's some people that are bummed out. A lot of people wanted to see Detroit in the Super Bowl. I was one of them, but at the same time, like, you look back at it and you're just like, we just witnessed a great season with a great head coach that got his people believing in that system. So yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. I just, for me, I don't think they have anything to hang their hat on, or hang their head about.
I still think Detroit, regardless or despite of what Dan Campbell said, I think this Detroit team is going to be very good next year.
Yeah, I do too. I think so too. And I think it's going to get better, because I think they're going to, as long as they continue to draft Brad Holmes. Can we just shout out to Brad Holmes, the general manager, real quick? Because honestly,
and you got Ben Johnson back.
Yeah, well, Ben, I don't.
You don't get your head coach.
It's still bittersweet for me as a Washington Commanders fan, okay? Because I was so excited that I heard that he may be there, and I like Aaron Glenn. Well, here's the other thing too. I think Detroit is going to definitely need at 29 to address the secondary.
Yes.
Cam Sutton,
my Jonesboro boy.
Well, he took a lot of heat
yes.
coming out of this. Now, he did struggle. I will say he did struggle. But he flashed. I think there was a lot of promise there. I think there's a lot of upside there as well. Now, here's the thing for me, though. Aaron Glenn's a former secondary player. I know you're a defensive coordinator, but your secondary should be your strongest part if that's the position you played. There's got to be a coaching there has to be a coaching focus there moving forward. Now, I know you and AC are always like, yeah, the coaches can't make the players play, blah, blah, blah. And I understand that, but
AC more than me, but yeah.
But you know what I mean, though. Coaches, for the most part, still play an integral part into helping develop players and helping this. So I think Cam is going to be okay. Now,
yeah, Cam will be fine.
I think he's better suited inside, though.
I would also agree.
I think he's better suited inside. So they need to look at what they're going to do with this position. And if Brad Holmes is any indication of that, he's going to find a guy he's going to plug right in. Because Brian Branch looks like the future.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Despite all the kneecaps he's taken.
Yeah. Well, that's Kirby Joseph, isn't it? That's Kirby Joseph.
Yeah, well, yeah, no, it's not Kirby Joseph.
Yeah, it's Kirby Joseph. Kirby Joseph.
Okay,
gotcha.
Yeah,
but Kirby Joseph.
I always want to say Jonathan Joseph because he's wearing 31 just like Jonathan Joseph, but I know they're like two different timelines. So I guess that's the timeline I'm still watching football in. But no, I will say this about the Lions, defensively especially. There needs to be more focus on the secondary, whether you add more players there, maybe change scheme up. But some of this is still a scheming issue. Not necessarily issue, but it's a scheme because what is Detroit built very well through offensively and defensively. They're built very well in the front seven and the interior. Yeah. So that's what they're going to play their strength to. If they were built better in the secondary, maybe you play more to a secondary strength because you know you're not going to be able to get home. But you have guys like Aiden Hutchinson. You have the monsters of D tackles that they have there. Like, they're going to create sacks. They're going to create strip sack fumbles and things like that. So you play kind of that really good Philadelphia Eagles style ball because you can trust a defense or your defensive line and front seven to get home, which then obviously allows or puts corners on islands or puts guys in zones where maybe you're stretching your zone coverage a little more than the player is typically supposed to. And then that leads to like your big gashes that you've seen. I mean, Detroit get gashed with all season. So obviously you need more guys there, but some of it still may just be of our front seven's so good, so we're going to live and die by that. And we're just putting our secondary out on an island. So it may not even 100% be the guys.
Well, and that's very true too, because they were very much all year the type that gave up the big explosive plays. And Aaron Glenn said that, we may give it up, but once we get into that red zone, we buckle it down, which is fine.
Which again shows how strong the personnel really is in the secondary, because then when windows become tighter, they can be more themselves. So in reality, it's more of a scheming thing.
Yeah.
But obviously there's so many guys because that's where they're weakest on defense.
Right. Well, and that's the thing, though, is I think that the biggest issue is going to be can they find the right guy to be in that, in that scheme that's going to succeed and help that out? Because I think if they could eliminate some of the big plays. Now, here's the other thing I want to say about this game, too. And let's be completely honest about this. If Brandon Ayuk doesn't catch that ball, that 51-yard bomb, this is probably a very different game, and we're having a very different conversation.
Yeah.
Because that wasn't only just a momentum changer, it was kind of a deflated moment for Detroit as well, and you saw it in that third quarter, and they never really regrouped.
Yep.
For whatever reason, that defense never really got over that one play. Because if that ball hits the turf or is intercepted, like we're talking, Detroit can go right down the field running the ball and eating up the clock, and you're eliminating another possession that wouldn't have been a touchdown type of situation, right? So, great play by Ayuk, very good play by Ayuk, but those are the plays that make the difference in a championship game, right? That's just the way that works.
I mean, however many times have you seen it with a bunch of Brady comebacks that you have a play like that? Like Ayuk said, he had a ladybug land on the shoelaces that morning. Like, hey, sometimes lady luck's what you need too.
Eli Manning to David Tyree, Eli Manning to Mario Manningham. Both those plays were made at a moment when it needed to be made, and that was what Ayuk made. And sure enough, that was a big momentum changer that Detroit never quite recovered from, at least in that third quarter.
Yep.
That led to a lot of mental mistakes, moving forward. So, so moving forward for this team, this Lions team, I think they're going to be back. I know Dan Campbell is honest and he's very real with the guys. I just don't think the NFC overnight is going to get stronger.
No.
And I think that the window for Detroit is still going to get better. Now, I will say, though, that they have a very good young quarterback in Jordan Love in their division. Yep. So this division is – and if Kirk Cousins returns to Minnesota, like, this division's not going to be a weak division for Detroit moving forward.
I mean, I guess just to throw something in about my Vikings, I was looking at them today. They were 5-4 on the road, or 6-4, something on the road this year. 2-6 at home. So you just start winning a couple more of those home games. You're in the dance.
It's that Jordan Love, Green Bay, young team. Very similar situation to Detroit last year. Detroit missed the playoffs, but Green Bay got in. Yep. Didn't necessarily belong there. Maybe didn't have anything to play for. We'll see what happens with Green Bay next year. Chicago may have a new quarterback. I'm assuming they probably will. I don't see a world where Chicago keeps one and doesn't take a quarterback there personally, but that division's going to get tougher, and Detroit will have a first place schedule next year. We'll see how they respond, but I think underneath Dan Campbell, I personally think they're going to be okay.
Yeah, I think they will too.
So, moving forward there. Now, moving forward again. Super Bowl. It's a rematch from the Super Bowl a year ago. Justin, before we do that,
not a year ago, 5 years ago.
5 years ago, sorry.
Yeah, it's the first Mahomes Super Bowl.
Yeah, I didn't mean a year ago. I meant like years ago, but I don't know. Did you have a quarterback rank? I mean, it's only 4 quarterbacks. Did you have like a setup here? I mean,
yeah, I mean, we could still run through it because there's 3 deserving. So I have a top 3, but in reality, it's truly a top 2. But I think everybody knows who those 2 are.
Yeah, well, let's just.
It's a lot of things that take into account when you talk about being viewed as a top 5 quarterback. It's not a laundry list. This is a list that, you know, it has to be taken very seriously.
Well, we are through with the AFC NFC Championship week in the NFL. And there was only 4 quarterbacks playing, so no longer top 5. And it's kind of hard to do a top 3, but we're still going to do a top 3 because I still think one guy deserves to be in there. I guess I'm part of the generation that likes handing out participation trophies. So let's start off with no honorable mentions because I don't think anybody deserves to be an honorable mention because Lamar Jackson held on to the ball too long this week. Anyway, moving on to my number 3 quarterback on this really two-person list is Jared Goff. Jared Goff had an 88.8 QBR, 25 of 41 for 273 yards and a touchdown. With this game, we talk about the missed plays and missed opportunities that they had. I think Jared Goff did exactly what he needed to do in this game to win the NFC Championship. He's been there once before. He played overall very well. And you take a couple of these Reynolds drops and some of the other things that happened, and these stat lines look even better than what they did. I mean, he put balls in good spots all night, even if they weren't the prettiest ball there. And he just got unlucky with a couple drops. And that's the way the cookie crumbles. And you kind of blew the lead there because you didn't want to run the football. But that's not a Jared Goff issue. Jared Goff did everything that he was asked to do and played a very solid game for this level of game. So Jared Goff, number 3 on my list. Moving on into the real list now, number 2, Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy had an 89.0 QBR, 20 of 31 for 267 yards, a touchdown, the interception. But he also had 5 rushes for 48 yards. In reality, really 4 rushes for 52. I really don't want to count the kneelage yards. So NFL, get rid of the kneel yardage as rushing yardage. Do that, please. Kind of like how college football needs to get rid of the sacks counting for rush yardage too, please. All right, anyway. Brock Purdy, he's a gamer. I think anyone who wants to say he is just a game manager, I do not know what you are watching. I don't know what you are seeing. I don't know what you have against Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy is a gamer. I can count at least 9 plays that Purdy changed the game in this game. Yes, there were 2 passes, the forced interception where he forced it into coverage that he shouldn't have, and then obviously the interceptable pass that dropped and turned into the Ayuk catch. That were 2 interceptable passes and put him number 2 on my list because of those 2 mistakes. But other than that, the game manager status is thrown out the window. He changed the game. He made plays when his number was called and even made plays moving with his legs, making great plays in the run game, making great plays, extending plays, and finding guys like Juszczyk who made mistakes on the play that then he found them deep in the middle of the field. He still made plays and was aggressive downfield, and he went and won the game. So there were parts of the game that he had to manage. There are parts of the game that he had to play big time, and he did that. So anyone who wants to say he's a game manager, no, he's not. And he never really was. He's still a game manager in the style of play, but at the end of the day, he's still a game changer when he has to be. But let's move on to my number 1 guy. For the championship weekend. Number 1, Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes, I think, is the exact same kind of conversation we have about Brock Purdy. He had a 105 QBR, 30 for 39, 241 yards, a touchdown, and then 6 rushes for 15 carries. But those 6 rushes for 15 carries were still some big third down conversions that he moved his legs. He stumbled down the field, even though he's still running at 23 miles an hour. He's making plays whenever the team needed him to make plays, especially early on in this game, being able to throw strikes on 4th down and then hitting Travis Kelce and putting the ball in the one spot that creates a touchdown. And Patrick even said it himself at the end of the game. Like, he knew his defense was playing so well, so he could manage the game. He could become a game manager, and he managed the game beautifully. He didn't turn over the ball against a defense that forced 31 turnovers. And the dude made special plays whenever it was asked of him to make special plays. Patrick Mahomes is playoff Patrick. You can never doubt 15. So take that what you will. Never doubt 15. I've seen it too many times with Tom Brady. Never doubt 15, and that's why he's my number 1 quarterback for the championship week. I don't think anybody is disagreeing with this list, so if you do, you probably don't watch football, but I'll still debate it with you in the comments, so go leave a comment. Let me know how you thought about this list, and obviously all you Lamar Jackson guys, you'll probably go hit me in the comments saying I'm a Lamar Jackson hater. No, I'm not. I actually love Lamar, but no. Hit me up in the comments, leave a like, and then we'll discuss it there. But that's my abbreviated quarterback list for championship week, and there probably won't be one for the Super Bowl. I'll just give my hats off to whoever.
I mean, the one thing I will say about Brock Purdy is I felt like there was a couple missed throws throughout the game, but as a whole, I feel like that it was a really well-played game across the board for Purdy. He looked really good. He looked poised.
Yeah.
He looked like he was in position to really want to win this game. And he, like you said, was one of the biggest factors in the changing of this game. With his legs, not even managing, just making plays when it matters the most. Really, essentially, is what that boils down to there. All right, let's talk about
what the game managers do.
Right, for sure.
Alex Smith would say he's not in the game managers club. Just saying.
Yeah, and Alex Smith definitely said that. So, I mean,
he is the captain of the game managers club. Love you, Alex.
Well, speaking about Alex Smith in the game managers club, this is the Alex Smith Super Bowl. San Francisco, Kansas City. There, obviously, unofficially, of course. Let's preview this a little bit here because I feel like there's been a lot of people, including us, that have kind of doubted this Kansas City team, but they're back. Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, can't really bet against them in a sense. But it still feels like a very different Kansas City-esque type team. Like, let's face it, they put up 17, which is un-Kansas City-esque, against a team that had a extremely bad game plan that kind of played the game into Kansas City's strengths. And probably should have lost to Buffalo. I mean, let's be honest. They probably should have lost to Buffalo. And I don't know, man. Like, the only game that I've really, truly been confident was when they beat Miami in the -7-degree weather. Now, obviously, Patrick Mahomes. I mean, what can you really say about this guy, right? There's nothing you can't say about him that we haven't already said. Yep. And Andy Reid has been pretty much lights out since he's gone to Kansas City. What is it, 11 years? And he's been in 4 Super Bowls there, something like that?
Yeah, it's Super Bowl number 4.
Yeah, number 4, right? So, yeah, man, I don't know. It's hard. It's hard to bet against this Kansas City team. San Francisco on paper, obviously, looks more talented top to bottom. Oh, I didn't mention it. Rasheed Rice, man.
Yeah.
I mean, he's really starting to develop into his own, and this guy has all the tools to be a true number 1 in this league, and he's getting Mahomes' trust more and more game by game.
Yep. And so he'll be a key factor in the Super Bowl for sure, especially in slowing down this pass rush.
Dangerous because, I mean, he can do that 40-yard run. He can take that little screen pass. I mean, he can do the little slants. I mean, he can do all of that. So,
well, I will say Kansas City did have another touchdown taken off the board that would have been Rasheed Rice, but the flag.
Oh yeah. Well, that was on a little, what was this? The little screen, the little bubble screen.
Little screen pass he took for 40.
He gone. See you later. What's your keys here in this game? Obviously, we know that Brock it's going to be limiting mistakes, without going through this normal talking points. What's the keys to this for you, for really any side to win this?
Well, I think when I look at because I did a little bit of research today, I look at the 49ers offense versus Chiefs defense, and then obviously I look at the two different sides. So Niners offense versus Chiefs defense, and Chiefs offense, Niners defense. And I think a lot of these teams, or a lot of these scenarios, is good on good. What the 49ers do well is what Kansas City does well at defending. And so, and you look at obviously what Spagnuolo does in terms of flipping coverages and creating confusion and creating chaos and being able to then stop the run with your defensive backs, even though they still play like a too high safety zone coverage look, and then allow this pass rush to get home and create pressure. And then you see what the 49ers do. Obviously, everything starts with Christian McCaffrey. They love running the football. That's going to be a huge key for this offense because you can run on Kansas City, as we've all seen. But, I mean, the 49ers love dropping guys in like Brock Purdy loves hitting guys in the middle of the field and running the crossers and the overs and all the different things to get Deebo Samuel the ball, Brandon Ayuk the ball, and all these other like Jawan Jennings and the other guys that they have there. But I mean, but because of the zone coverage dropping that they have in Kansas City and how they rotate and all that other stuff, like that plays into where Kansas City's good at defending. And then you look opposite side and you look in Kansas City's offense. Obviously, this 49ers defense, I mean, the 49ers have to attack the interior offensive line. Now, this Chiefs offensive line is better than I think a lot of people are saying they are. But obviously, if there's a weakness anywhere, it's on that the interior part of the offensive line. You're not necessarily going to get around the tackles, but the Joey Bosa effect. Or excuse me, Nick Bosa effect there. I mean, that's still huge too. Bosa needs to have a great game, get pressure on Patrick Mahomes. But you've seen with Patrick in moments like this, he will still run and make plays with his legs, unlike Lamar Jackson was able to do. So you need to be able to get home on Patrick, and you need to be able to create pressure to try to force the turnover that Patrick's been so good at not turning the football over. So, I mean, if I'm going back to the 49ers offense, run the football, get these linebackers that zone drop to respect the run more to open up the middle of the field. And then obviously try to get Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey and those kind of guys involved in little screens, little dink and dunk stuff through the perimeter. I didn't mention this earlier when we talked about the Lions and 49ers. I think there was one or two drives early in the game, like the drive that ended up being the missed field goal to start the game. I think that was actually a poor play design by Shanahan on that third down that went to Christian McCaffrey. Oh, yeah. If you're going to get the ball to a guy like Christian, line him up on the line of scrimmage. Because he runs his kind of little post, but because of where he's starting, he ends up running in the same area that I believe it was Brandon Ayuk running the slant on the outside, and then you allow one guy to defend two people, and then even if he starts at line of scrimmage, he breaks the post right at the sticks, and then that's first down. You keep the drive moving instead of kicking a field goal where Butker misses that field goal that typically he probably wouldn't, or not Butker, excuse me. Moody misses that field goal. But yeah, I mean, this game, like my initial reactions are this 49ers offense, it stacks up pretty well with what Spagnuolo is going to want to take away. Spagnuolo can obviously look at what the Ravens did, and they have to get pressure on Purdy. But you've seen with Brock Purdy, he's willing to take some shots. I mean, I think one of the biggest plays that I take out of his game versus the Lions was that crosser he hit to Deebo Samuel. Like the dude held onto the ball to the very last millisecond. He took a massive shot and still delivered a strike to Deebo Samuel. That's the kind of kid that Brock Purdy is. And he's going to have to continue to do that. And it's the Brock Purdy factor. What is Brock going to come out and do? Because we know what Patrick's going to do. What is Brock going to do? And can you get pressure on him, and how is he going to react to it? I think Brock Purdy's obviously your X factor in this Super Bowl, and depending on what Brock does, I think determines where this game goes.
you kind of hit the nail on the head as to what I was going to say is, for me, it's the middle of the field.
Yeah.
I feel like San Francisco got a little bit exposed by Detroit in the middle of that field with Amon-Ra St. Brown, Laporta, kind of having some success in that area. Josh Reynolds, even on the 2 drops, so we're in the middle of the field. I feel that San Francisco is going to need to tidy that up because we saw what Travis Kelce did to Baltimore.
Yes,
because
but
Baltimore.
I will say this, no offense to Travis Kelce, any Swifties out there, whatever. Like, the athletes, and I'm not saying Travis Kelce's not an athlete. He's a tremendous athlete. But the athletes that Detroit has pressuring the middle of the field with Fred Warner and Greenlaw that are still great at covering the middle of the field.
Yes.
Like, those level of athletes are the only level of athletes that I think can truly beat those linebackers at doing that job. So Travis Kelce is so great at finding space, and he's going to have to do that for Patrick. And they have such a chemistry that I think they'll still make that happen. But again, it's strength on strength. What the Chiefs need to do well is hitting the ball in the middle of the field, but that's what the 49ers do well in defending. So again, I didn't even mention this, Kansas City offensively, they need to run the ball with Isaiah Pacheco.
Yeah. And what I was going with that as well is I feel like that they can't solely rely on Travis Kelce, even as great as he is at that position, and he's going to get his. I mean, it's something against Fred Warner. It's something against Fred Warner or Dre Greenlaw. It's just he's that caliber of a player.
Yep.
But if they allow them to get into rhythm, like Travis Kelce was able to get into rhythm against Baltimore, it could be for a long day for San Francisco. But I feel like Kansas City needs to get Rashee Rice in the middle of that field.
Yep.
I think that Rashee Rice can be, like you were mentioning a little bit about, actually it was about Rice, I believe, being a little bit of the X factor for Kansas City in this situation. If they can get a play design to try to get him in the middle of that field, yes, they're very good at defending the middle of that field. But if they can get that, I think it can open up McCaffrey on the swing passes, on the Texas routes, on the the up and go routes or the up and out routes.
Oh, you mean like Pacheco or Edwards-Helaire on those kind of swings?
Oh, sorry, yeah. Well, like that's what I mean. Sorry, but
we're mixing teams together now. Yeah, this is how long of a season.
Well, I meant like McCaffrey-esque, like with Pacheco, because Pacheco has better hands than I think people realize.
Oh, of course.
So I think you can open that up, and I think that could exploit San Francisco. Because I honestly don't think that there is going to be a ton of really big plays in this game. I think you may get 1 or 2 from each side, and if you're able to be successful at that, it may be the difference. But otherwise, I really do not expect this game to have a lot of quote unquote explosive, plays because of how well both these defenses are.
Well, and it also goes back to something I said before the show even existed when I was on another friend's podcast two years ago, I believe now, talking about the Cincinnati Bengals, Los Angeles Rams Super Bowl and the offensive line that Cincinnati had. What I felt like was going to win Cincinnati a Super Bowl was getting the ball out of Joe Burrow's hands quickly. And with Burrow in particular, it was more the quick game as opposed to the screen game. With Kansas City, to be able to slow down this pass rush of San Francisco, who they're going to need to trust to get home on Mahomes to have success or even more chance of success defensively. I think where everything begins is obviously your swing passes with Pacheco or Edwards-Helaire, but getting Rashee Rice in particular involved in the screen game that he is so explosive. When you're able to get the ball out of Patrick's hands quick and get it to an athlete like that and let the playmaker go make a play, force the 49ers, who are very good at rallying to the football, force them, put pressure on them to rally to the ball. That can slow down the pass rushers that want to pin their ears back and get to Mahomes, because now they have to respect trying to bat that ball down, or they're thinking a defense or an offensive lineman or offensive tackle is going to jam them in the balls. Like you slow guys down that way to where then on your 3rd and 5s, 3rd and 6s, even though defensive linemen know they can pin their ears back and try to rush, they still have to respect something because that screenplay went for 12 earlier. Or that screenplay or that swing went for 5 or 6, and so you have to be able to respect that. So you force even just a half a second or a millisecond delay in a pass rush, that could be the difference of Patrick being able to throw a deep post over the middle of the field or a nice little hook and curl to Travis Kelce for a first down. Like, that can be the difference of the game. Yeah, but then we also talk about, like, with the pass rush getting to Mahomes. Mahomes is one of the best in the NFL in breaking sacks and breaking contain and creating there. So I really don't want to make a pick yet because I really like what both of these teams can provide in the game that I think we're going to get. Because I think if you like watching football and like getting into the nitty gritty of football, this is going to be a good Super Bowl for you.
Well, I will delay it a little bit. Got some news items we can talk about first here. Some non-NFL stuff real quick. I did want to shout out Cam Eccles-Looper, who was a wide receiver for the USFL last year. Just announced on his Twitter page or X page, whatever you want to call it, that he is signed with the Calgary Stampeders up in the CFL. So kudos to him. Good luck to him in the future as well with that. Also, the UFL announced today that YouTube sensation Destroying, a kicker, has signed with the San Antonio Brahmas as well. So good luck to him as well in that sense. A couple non-NFL items. Thomas Brown, former Panthers OC, has signed as a passing game coordinator or whatever you want to call it for the Chicago Bears.
Yep.
Interesting hire. Very interesting hire.
Yeah, very, very interesting hire. But wait, hold on. I thought the Bears hired Seattle's. Oh, no, yeah, you're right. Yeah. No, interesting hire. That's all I'll say about that one.
Well, the offensive coordinator, Shane Waldron. That's the guy that they hired for the offensive coordinator position. I like that move. Just a very interesting hire for a passing game coordinator for Thomas Brown, because I don't know much about his, if that's a strength for his. I always just thought he was, more of just an offensive minded guy in general, but we'll see what happens. But I find it also a little bit interesting because it's a new OC, new passing game coordinator, all signs pointing towards Justin. Here's your walking papers.
Exactly.
Good luck to you in the future.
And Caleb Williams.
And one of the most baffling hires of this offseason so far, and I say baffling because it's pretty baffling. The Pittsburgh Steelers re-signed Matt Canada. Signed Arthur Smith.
Well, I thought they were interviewing him. Did they actually sign him?
They have hired him to be the offensive coordinator there in Pittsburgh.
Oh boy.
Why is it this franchise just tends to not learn from their mistakes? I don't get it.
I'm not even going to talk about that perspective. I'm just going to take it from the Georgia fan and the Atlanta native that I am. I'm so ready because I saw this meme on X or Twitter or whatever we call it nowadays. I'm so ready to see George Pickens start swinging at Arthur Smith when he doesn't get targets 7 straight games in a row. Like, I'm so ready to see that. Like, if you haven't seen it, go look at George Pickens' fight with the Georgia Tech receiver back in like 2020, 2021, something like that. That's what I honestly feel like will happen in Pittsburgh. Yeah. Congrats on mediocrity again, Pittsburgh. You never learn, but I will work with Arthur Smith if you want to hire me. And Moose obviously is a big fan of Kenny Pickett. So, hey, standard is the standard. So standard is mediocrity. Congratulations, Kenny Pickett. Congratulations, Pittsburgh Steelers. You will continue to be mediocre.
The Buffalo Bills officially gave their OC to Joe Brady, which I think is the right choice. And they also brought in Bob Babbage as a defensive coordinator as well. Ken Dorsey signed somewhere, I believe.
Yeah, I have
Seattle, I think, or something. Browns,
yeah.
The Cleveland Browns did too.
I actually think that's a decent hire.
I think it's okay. I just don't want to see him make the same mistakes that were made in Buffalo because, it was tough in Buffalo for him, and I don't know if that was just a scheme standpoint with the head coach or whatever. We'll see what Stefanski has in store for him as the OC there in Cleveland. Moose has said terrible OC choice by Pittsburgh. As Tolman always said, the standard is the standard. if the standard is mediocrity. So, Moose, I completely agree with you there. My biggest thing with the Arthur Smith hire is it's very similar to the Adam Gase hire. I mentioned this last week. What did you see from Arthur Smith in Atlanta that made you go, or even really because he was a tight end coach at Tennessee, so it's not like he was an offensive coordinator. What made you see anything there to make you go, this is the guy that I want? You know what I mean? Like
jet sweeps to Jonnu Smith for touchdowns. That's what.
Can you imagine trying to run a jet sweep on the 2-yard line with Pat Freiermuth?
Yeah, hey, I'm all for it. I'm ready to see it. Pat Freiermuth, let's go. Like you're getting rushing touchdowns now, kid. Let's go.
Oh God, he's going to be like so. Our best
or
players.
That or Jonnu Smith will be heading to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, that could happen too. I mean, he'll probably be up there and be like, our best player is George Pickens, so let's put him on the field. And we'll throw it to this undrafted rookie on the other side because that's what we did with Bijan Robinson and
it's
Drake London and Kyle Pitts.
Because it's a decoy. Like they know we're going to do it. So
exactly.
Let's do something else.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, they're going to get Kadarrell Hodge out there and make him go for 1,000 yards out in Pittsburgh. Man, I don't know, dude. It's just like Matt Canada was so bad for this offense. I don't think Arthur Smith is an upgrade at any level. And
I do want to ask this question: how much is the Steelers owner, and how much is is Mike Tomlin getting of FedEx stock by chance?
Probably. I just don't understand why you don't hire the guy that was the interim head offensive coordinator there.
Yep.
Because Pittsburgh's offense looked so much better when he took over. It just, I don't get it. It literally is probably the most baffling decision I think that I've seen so far this offseason.
Yeah.
Outside of maybe getting rid of Pete Carroll on the fly, it's just mind-boggling to me. The Atlanta Falcons coaching staff has come together very nicely, I will say.
Yeah, I like what they're doing.
Raheem Morris has put together a very good staff over there. Bobby Slowick is returning to Houston. Ben Johnson's returning to Detroit. Both sadness tier. So
you're ready for Dan Quinn to be the head coach of the Commanders?
No, I will shoot myself in the kneecap and mail it to Dan Campbell. I honestly, if the Commanders don't get this head coaching situation figured out,
you're announcing the fandom.
I may just be a free agent for a year. I've been a fan for too long. I survived Dan Snyder, but come on, you can't keep making the same mistakes that Dan Snyder made, please.
Yeah.
Obviously, Jim Harbaugh is the head coach of the Chargers, which we discussed. Bill Belichick apparently is going to take a year off, which, I mean, it might be good for him to recharge and refocus.
Yep.
As well. I don't think there was any other real major signings there. Is that?
No.
Carolina's made some. I just don't remember the names of who they made.
Yeah. So that's actually kind of what I did want to talk about because there's some things there that I think are bright for Carolina. I will say. So the Panthers hired the Bucs offensive coordinator, Dave Canales.
Oh, yeah, Dave Canales.
Dave Canales is their head coach. And then they brought in Dan Morgan to be their GM and president of football ops. And he actually played linebacker for the Panthers from 2001 to 2007. So bringing in someone who has played there, knows style of Carolina football in whatever style that really is. But I do think the Dave Canales hire is a promising hire. You look at the quarterbacks that he's worked with whenever he has either been an offensive coordinator or a quarterbacks coach. And every quarterback he's worked with has tremendously improved their touchdown to interception ratio under Canales. So that's not necessarily going to be indicative of what Bryce Young will do, but there has been a track record of when Canales has been on these teams that the stats do look better. Obviously, I haven't watched enough film to go back and see, is it really Canales? Was it the offensive coordinator? Whatever. But Russell Wilson had good years under Canales. Baker Mayfield had a good year under Canales. And I want to say there was one or two others that had some of their better career years under Canales. Completion percentage was up. Touchdown interception ratio was good. So I do think it's a left field hire. I wasn't expecting it. But after I kind of look at a lot of this, I do think this is promising or has a chance to be promising for Bryce Young, which I would say this is a better hire for at least giving Bryce Young a chance.
Okay.
And I know you're opposite.
Okay. So I have brought a new show to Shady Sports Network. It's a fantasy football show. It's a show that I was working on before I came to Shady Sports. It's called Dynasty Academy. It will start airing Thursdays live, at 8 p.m. Eastern, just for everybody out there that is watching and is interested in fantasy football. We mentioned we pre-recorded the first episode just to get our feet wet again and get back into it. And we talked about the Dave Canellis hiring a little bit. And okay, now Dave Canellis hiring feels like a hiring of nobody else wants to do this job. Do you want it? And Dave is like, yes, let's go, because it gives me a chance to get on my resume. I will say that Dave Canellis resurrected Geno Smith's career. He resurrected Baker Mayfield's career as far as the Seattle and Tampa Bay connection.
Mm-hmm.
My problem with the hiring isn't Dave Canellis necessarily himself. It's, is he a developer of quarterbacks? Or is he just a guy who can work well with veterans to kind of give them pointers? You know what I mean? Like, it's not really developing at that point, right? It's just
critiquing.
It's more just like, what can we do to limit your mistakes type of situation. Now, with that being said, it could be a great hire. John Harbaugh kind of came out of left field as a special teams coordinator. Nobody really kind of expected it in Baltimore. It's worked wonders, right? So Dan Campbell, the tight end coach, tight end player, biting kneecaps off people. We see what he's done in Detroit. So there is a possibility that this could be a really great hire. I'm very curious about what is going to happen if they come out of the gate at 2-6 or 1-7 or
we know who the owner is, so I think we all know what's going to happen.
Right. So this literally feels like it's another setup for a fall guy. I don't care about the 5-year deal that he signed. Like, that does not bother me at all, because we know that David Tepper does not care about that. This team doesn't have their first round pick.
Yeah.
Like, that's another huge thing. This first round pick would have been a first overall pick, and they could have turned that around and turned it into a whatever. But Tepper decided that he wanted to push the issue and go get my quarterback. It is what it is. They're stuck with Bryce Young now, at least for a little bit. They're going to have to figure it out. It just feels like a setup for a fall guy, is what it feels like.
It very well could be.
And again, it's nothing against Canellis, but what's his resume legitimately over a long period of time as an offensive coordinator, or did he have head coaching experience where he was successful in previous, you know what I mean? Like, what's the resume there to make you go, this is our guy type of situation? Now, again, talked a couple bit before, Houston's another one. D'Amico Ryans kind of gave him a shot, here, chance, players coach. I don't know. It does look bright in the sense of, okay, this guy's had resurrected some quarterbacks that looked like they were dead. Bryce Young doesn't really need resurrecting as much as he needs developing, and we'll have to see if he's strong with that, or is able to get the pieces around in place to get to that point. I do know that they announced an offensive coordinator and a defensive coordinator recently, because I don't know, is Evero might be returning actually.
Yeah, I don't have that one in my notes, so let me.
I think Avero's returning, because I think that Carolina denied him head coaching requests, so I think that he's returning.
Yeah, former Panthers offensive coordinator Thomas Brown to the Bears, passing game coordinator. Here we go.
I didn't know if you had that or not in front of you.
No, I didn't have that one in front of me because of when I made the list, but I thought it'd be easier to find than what it is. So, but I'm pretty sure they've hired an offensive coordinator somewhere.
Yeah, I think they hired somebody a couple days ago.
Okay, I keep seeing stuff about Thomas Brown.
Well, because that just happened, so they literally just broke. So, I think it was a couple days ago that they announced. I just don't remember who it is off the top of my head. But anyways, there's definitely some definite,
Brad Idzik.
Brad Edzik. Okay, yeah.
Edzik. There we go.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with Carolina. I don't know if it can be better. I mean, it could be worse than what it was this year, but I
don't think it could be worse than what it was this year. But then again, I say that, and then they could very well go 0-17, and that's definitely worse.
Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, man. I mean, that's it. Super Bowl Sunday's 2 weeks from now. Pro Bowl's next week. If you're a NASCAR fan, NASCAR's starting up. UFL's in March. So indoor football's coming up. So, I mean, there's still football after the Super Bowl. It's just for us here at the NFL show, we got one more show, and we'll do a draft special, and
that'll be it for the 2023 calendar year.
Hopefully, you'll be bringing a trophy on with you.
Oh yeah,
for that, and
sitting right here.
And then we'll be back obviously next year. We'll do this. We'll run this back again. I mean, I would love to have you return, Justin. I hope you do.
Oh yeah.
Maybe we can, either get some more full-time guys on here and weed out some of the people that bounce in and out or whatever. I mean, anybody's welcome. I mean, I'll talk football all night. I don't care.
Yeah.
All right.
That one. Yeah. We got good guys on the show, though. Every single guy that's been on the show this year, we love each and every one of them.
Love every single one of them. They're more than welcome to come back as well, obviously. I get schedules happen, man. I mean, it's hard,
especially
to get
now with a bunch of us guys being indoor, and I mean, coaches, meetings, things like that. That happens. Fortunately for me, my Tuesday nights are still open.
Yeah, and we did get Alex's name on the graphic, and for some reason, Chris still hasn't uploaded it into the thing, from what I understand. So the graphic has been there, Alex, and I apologize. I pushed for it, and Sam said I changed it when you asked me to, but it has not been uploaded for some reason. So, well, we will get that fixed for next year, Alex. We wish to have you back, obviously. Hopefully, you'll be hosting a trophy as well.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Maybe I think it's just one that gets passed around, right?
Yeah, we'll pass it around. Or we can do it a dual camera, one camera, two guys.
Yeah. See, there you go.
There you go. Do it on location.
All right. Here's the moment. You didn't want to do it, and I told you I was going to delay, and I was going to delay as long as I could. Yep. It's the moment. Super Bowl prediction: San Francisco, Kansas City, Las Vegas. 2 weeks from now, you have nothing.
I still think this is a good game, and I like both quarterbacks a lot. I got personal connections to both quarterbacks. Obviously, I have more personal connections to Mahomes, just with who we work with and the places that we work out with and stuff like that. So there is personal connection there. And then Brock is obviously just, I feel like a very similar mold of myself, and what he stands on, all that, I think, and how he plays is very similar to what I provide to teams. So I love him from that standpoint. But no, this is a tough one because I still think the Brock Purdy X factor is huge in this game. If Brock plays the way that he played in the fourth quarter of the Green Bay game, and if he plays the way that he played when he had to and make plays, this Kansas City defense that has been very, very good might be in for a long day. But again, I run into who's on the other sideline, 15. So I think this is going to be a very, very close game. I really hate giving a prediction now because, again, this could change. But I'm gonna go Kansas City 23, San Francisco 21.
Wow, Moose, if you're still listening, I'd love to have your predictions in the comments to put up here.
I still think Brock Purdy will have an amazing game, and he is not a game manager, and they will not blame him for this loss. But 23-21 Kansas City.
Oh, man.
But tomorrow I could say 23-21 San Francisco. I'll go throw it on X.
Actually, if you do that on X, then you can just pinpoint to which one was right and just be like, "See, I picked it right." Yeah.
Yeah, I'll tweet them both. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we have receipts though, Justin.
Yeah.
We have receipts. Oh man. So here's the thing for me. This is very much like the Detroit San Francisco game for me. Like, I am really, really pulling for Brock Purdy. I picked San Francisco to win. Man,
I think you're feeling what I'm feeling. Yeah.
It's hard because every time I picked against Mahomes, he's just proven me wrong, and now I feel like the first time that I'm going to pick Mahomes, he's going to fail and let me down. So,
well, hey, the first time I picked against Mahomes, he made me pay earlier this week or earlier this playoffs. So I'm running with that one.
Okay, yeah. All right, so I'm gonna go on the opposite here. I'm gonna go San Francisco. I think Brock Purdy gets it done. I think the team gets it done. I
hope so.
I think Purdy plays a excellent game. It might be a rough start. It might be a little bit too much of a pressure to start off with, but I think he'll get settled down. I think Shanahan will settle him down. And this team is going to be gritty. And I don't know if they'll have to have a comeback like they did against Detroit, but I think there will be a comeback of some sort. I think they'll fall down early, but 28-24 over San Francisco over Kansas City. I was going to pick 23-24, but you went with 23, so I don't want it to be different. So I'm going to go 28-24.
I mean, hey, this could be a game that I think each team kind of gets maybe one or two chunk plays, but like you said, I don't think this is going to be a game where each team's probably not going to get more than maybe two or three chunk plays all game. And if you really like watching football, it's going to be a good nitty-gritty game to watch because it's good on good. Like Kansas City has their quote-unquote issues, but the way Kansas City's played these last 2 weeks, I think some of those issues have resolved themselves, and I do think MVS will have a bigger game than what a lot of people think he may.
I do want to say that very similar to the San Francisco-Detroit game, if any one of these teams hits 30, whoever the first one does is probably going to win.
Yes.
I will say that. If it gets to that point, whoever hits 30 first is going to get to that point. So, honestly, my thing with Patrick Mahomes is we're seeing greatness, and we're seeing somebody who's doing stuff that I just on the heels of just what we saw with Tom Brady, which, Tom Brady was a holdover from what the heels of that we saw with Peyton Manning doing. It's like we have literally been, greatness, and he's so young in his career still.
Yeah.
And the fact that he's still doing this is insane. I love Patrick Mahomes. It's more just I want Brock to finish his story.
I do too. Like my heart is really with your pick. My head, I think, still with Kansas City because the role they're on. But then again, my head's half and half. So who knows?
Yeah, well,
I like both of these teams.
And to me, I like both teams, but I think to me it's just the playmakers that San Francisco has.
Yep.
Very potentially could be a difference maker there. It's just that they don't have the experience that Kansas City has on their side. So the experience factor, I mentioned experience in the Cleveland Browns game and got absolutely humiliated by Houston. So experience may mean nothing for all I know, but the experience
there is experience on San Francisco's sideline too.
There is, and there's experience with winning on Kansas City's side. That is more and more experience because they've done it more.
Yeah,
that is going to be interesting to see if that plays a role or a factor into anything.
Yeah, I mean both
as well. So
I'll say it too because I'm the resident quarterback. Both of these quarterbacks are winners.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be a battle of who wants to win this thing more. And I think both of them want to win it equally just as much.
Yeah. I do. I think Kansas City wants to win it because they want to prove everybody that doubted them all year wrong, including myself. I'll eat that crow.
Yeah.
I've eaten plenty of that in my life, so it's not going to be like I'll probably eat more next year too. And for Brock Purdy, obviously San Francisco want to set this apart and just basically be like, this is the thing. And I actually mentioned Brock Purdy, Justin, on the Dynasty Academy show that, I kind of used a little bit of your analogy. Like, I'm not saying that he is Tom Brady, but his career is very much off to a Tom Brady-esque type start.
Yeah.
They don't ask him to do a lot, but when they ask him to do stuff, he delivers.
Yep.
And this team, he's playing within Shanahan's system to the point where he's going to break that mold and then just become the system.
Yeah.
Kind of like Brady did. So, as long as they stick with him, and it looks like they're going to stick with him, they got their future. I mean, they traded Trey Lance. They went through this whole process. So,
I mean, hey, they even told Purdy before the start of the season that Kyle Shanahan was trying to get Tom Brady out of retirement to go play for him. So maybe that's he had to turn into Brady to not be replaced by Brady.
But either way, it's very much a very straightforward career trajectory for Brock Purdy, and the only person that's going to stop him is probably going to be himself, and and I don't think he will stop himself. But yeah, I'm rooting for him. So I'm going to go with my fan side this time because I didn't last week with Detroit. And I'm going to go with the Brock Purdy side to finish his story. So Mr. Irrelevant be the first one ever, I believe, as a starting quarterback. So either way, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and if not, and Patrick Mahomes wins his third? Yeah, it'll be third.
Oh,
and,
I mean, we still win his greatness.
It'll tie Tom Brady in this era or in this age 27 season and what he's done. And in reality, all the statistics would be other than Super Bowls because they'd be tied. It'd all be pointing Mahomes' way.
Yep, and either way, it'll be greatness.
Yeah.
We have a great story here. So either way, no matter how it turns out, it's going to be great one way or the other.
Yeah, and I know most people are not going to be happy if Kansas City wins, and I also think there's going to be a crowd that are not going to be happy if San Francisco wins because I think these are the two teams that the fans didn't want to see in the Super Bowl. But me personally, I'm more than ecstatic. Even though I'm a Viking and Falcon fan, I'm more ecstatic for either one of these teams if they win. I've loved Patrick since he joined the league, and then obviously I've already said the reason why I like Brock so much anyway. I'm super ecstatic for both of these guys or both of these teams. And anything Kyle Shanahan, I love it. So, hey, I'm all for
it. And since I'm a type of guy that I say a lot of things and I have opinions about things, there are a lot of times that I don't get things right. And I'm going to be the first one to tell you that I don't get things right. This was years ago now when Patrick Mahomes was coming into the league. I couldn't have been more wrong about a quarterback in my life.
Anybody watching, make sure you clip this, just saying.
Absolutely. By all means, but I've been very honest about it the last 2 to 3 years. It's the first time you guys have heard me say this. I couldn't have been more wrong about a guy like Patrick Mahomes. I thought his mechanics were terrible. I thought it was going to lead to poorly placed ball placement because a lot of his highlights in college were to me, I look at him and go, in the NFL, that's a pick. And he's going to be a turnover machine. And I just thought it wasn't going to work out. Now, I don't know if it was that first year of him sitting that really helped him. Because we're seeing what happened kind of with Jordan Love, even though that's a 4-year window for Jordan Love.
Yep.
But I couldn't have been more wrong. And to be honest with you, I couldn't be happier that I was more wrong than I is on Patrick Mahomes because what we're witnessing is something, again, we shouldn't technically be witnessing coming off of what we saw with Tom Brady and Peyton Manning, right?
Yeah.
We shouldn't be witnessing this again already this soon, while the rest of the quarterback play around him is kind of in the league is kind of
and quarterbacks play is getting more and more average.
His play is not. So
and we could very well be seeing another go around of the Brock Purdy of the world.
This
CJ Stroud and Jordan
I
Love.
mean, don't get me wrong. I think there's a lot of talented quarterbacks in the NFL.
Yeah,
it's just that when you have, you have 32 starters, right? And we had 65 different starting quarterbacks this year in general. We're talking, Alex brought up a good point a few weeks ago, and I know this is going a little bit off subject, a little bit longer than where we were going with it, but it sparked it in me. I don't know if the quarterback play is necessarily getting more mediocre. I think it's all the safety precautions that are put in place. I think that players are hurting themselves to try not to hurt themselves, and quarterbacks are a prime position for that. Like, I feel like that because there's so much protection around quarterbacks, they kind of get into the safety zone and feel like that they can kind of get a little bit, like I can't take, like it's going to be a penalty, and the next thing you know, it's a freak knee injury or a freak, you know what I mean, like
and
shoulder injury or whatever.
I'll piggyback that off with some advice I was given not too long ago with the game I just played in. Like, I even mentioned to a couple guys, like, I've got training camp coming up, like. Especially when I was seeing some guys starting to quit on the team like the day of the game. I'm like, okay, how's this game going to go now for me? The other team's stacked. I've got a bunch of basically like semi-pro guys on my team that I've never played with. They changed the playbook the day of the game, like that kind of stuff. And I'm like, I'm just going to try to play this, maybe get one or two highlights and get through this thing. But then somebody came up to me, told me when I was talking to him, I'm like, no, like if you try to play it safe, that's how you're going to get hurt. And then you're out for the season for what really matters. And so, although, I still took some safety precautions, maybe didn't step into one or two throws that I know I probably should have, whatever. Overall, like, I still played balls to the wall, and I'm not worried about getting hurt. And I didn't, just came out with one little scratch on the forearm. So, I mean, it's one of those things that guys playing to not get hurt is going to mean you get hurt.
Right. Yeah. And that's how I feel too. Like, it's just, shout out to Councilman, Devin Myrick for checking in and, leaving his comment for sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I fully believe that the safety precautions, I get it from the NFL standpoint, especially when it comes to quarterback, because that's your moneymaker. But it's almost like, is it too much now at this point? Because I remember when I was in my coach, the minute that you don't go 100% is the minute you get hurt.
Yeah.
So I've lived that life every single time that I've played football, every single time that I was on the field, whether it was a coach or whatever it may be. I just feel like that we're not getting that necessarily the same thing at the NFL level, because there's no reason for us to have 65 starting quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Like, and again, no offense to the other 30, the other 33 guys that started from the first 32. It's just, there's a very distinct difference between the top 1% and the top 0.2%, right? You know what I mean? Like, when you drop that, there's a difference there, but that's just the nature of it. Not everybody can be Joe Montana, because if everybody was Joe Montana, then, the game would probably be boring. You know what I mean? So I don't think that the play, I don't think the talent has necessarily dropped. I think it's just the way that the game is played has changed so much that it's affected the way that the game is played from the quarterback position.
Most definitely.
And I'm not saying go out there and run around, and get crushed like Vince Young did for years, but I just, like, I get some of the precautions, but you have like a tiny window that you can hit a quarterback in, and then quarterbacks are trying to, whether it's draw a penalty or whatever, and the next thing you
didn't know to be a quarterback you had to get an acting license. You didn't know that?
I mean, I feel like that might be the case, Justin. I mean, I don't.
Hey, I'm not giving away our secrets. I'm not. I don't know. Concussion. I can't remember what we talked about.
I was gonna say, should we expect to start the Hollywood Walk of Fame for you there? I mean,
hey,
with your acting ability.
Hey, possibly. Who knows?
I watched Necessary Roughness last night, by the way, and they know the filmmakers knew about as much about football that the same filmmakers probably knew about hockey with the Mighty Ducks. They knew nothing. Like, I love that movie because it's ridiculous and just but they're playing in a lightning storm, and I'm like,
yeah, that would never.
That's how that goes. Anyways, all right, guys. In 2 weeks from now, we will be back with the Super Bowl post Super Bowl show. That will be our last show for the in season, And then, we'll have a draft special later on in the year, and then we'll kick this back up season 2, next year. Let's run it back. You want to run it back? Let's run it back.
Oh,
Justin.
I'm running it back.
Sounds good. So
I'll even run it back while being on a team.
Well,
I'll make my own team. I'll have myself number 1 on the list every week. Yeah. No bias.
Well, no bias. No. I mean, why would we have bias? You could just be like the number 1 quarterback on the goal line stand. How about that?
Yeah. How about
every week, Justin Arth?
Make a new graphic. It'll always be up here in the corner or something.
You can just put it underneath your name there. I think they give you the option when you sign in. Justin Arth, the number 1 quarterback.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying?
I'll start doing that.
Yeah, so you should do that. Absolutely. So that's it for the goal line stand here tonight. Justin, if you want to take us home, go ahead, man.
Yeah. Hey, championship weekend's over. Time for the Super Bowl. You love our predictions, hate our predictions. Let us know. For all you guys watching it back on the replay, thanks for everybody that's tuned in this episode live. Make sure you go hit that like button before you leave. Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification so you never miss one of the videos that gets posted to this channel. We're continuing to grow this channel to get more and more guys exposure and cover more and more things as we continue to go. There's a bunch of spring football stuff coming up. There's obviously UFL, arena football. We still got more NFL stuff to talk about. There's individual team talks and all this other kind of stuff over on the channel. And hey, we've even got some basketball and some other stuff too. So and this channel's got anything you want. Go look through the archives, see everything you got, and go look at all of our goal line stand videos, previous streams, all that too. Rate my lists and let Michael know how bad his takes are about the Washington Commanders and all this other kind of great stuff. But with that being said, that is championship week of the goal line stand over. We got one more of these to go, and it's superb owl time.
Yeah, no doubt. Until next time, you can still catch me. Dynasty Academy Thursday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern. I will be doing a spring showcase as well this year to cover the LFA. That will be later on. Just a shameless little plug. As Justin said, go hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and until next time.